Okay, so good morning. Today's daf is daf Nun Aleph of Sanhedrin. We are three lines down into the wide lines on Nun Amud Bet on 50b. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. So, um, uh, before we get started, though, I do want to note that tomorrow will be Zoom only, and at the moment, maybe we'll start at 8:15. So, yesterday, as part of our discussion of the severity of various forms of death penalty, a key element of that discussion was the punishment of burning given to the daughter of a Kohen who engaged in adultery. And we had a debate as to exactly the scope of it. Was it just a married woman, or did it also include a betrothed woman? And that was a debate between Rabbi Shimon and the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan said it was just a married woman because a betrothed woman gets the higher and more severe punishment of stoning, whereas Rabbi Shimon said, no, the most severe punishment is burning. And so as a result, whether she's married, fully married, or just has done a Kedushin and is just betrothed, she is going to be subject to burning. So today, in any event, we pick up on the third line of Nun Amud Bet, and we begin with a long brisa that analyzes the verse in Vayikra, Parakuf Aleph Pasuk Tet, that details this law. And just to see what that verse says before we get started, Uvas Ish Kohen, when the daughter of a Kohen man, Kisechel Liznos, when she engages in some kind of profane adultery, es avia hi mechalelaha, she is profaning her father, be'esh tisaref, she should be burned in fire. And so what we are about to do is we are about to parse each and every word in this verse to teach a series of lessons. And that is going to be what our Bryce is going to do. So let's go and we'll dive right in. So Tan Rabbanan, Uvas Ish Kohen Kisechel. So before we even get to the words nos, the question is maybe any kind of profaning is going to trigger this penalty of burning. Yachol afilu chil Shabbos. I might have thought that would even include somebody who profaned Shabbos. So Talmud Lomar Liznos. That's why the Torah needs to specifically tell us that it is specifically for some sort of immoral sexual behavior, which we understand to mean adultery. It's only that kind of profaning that the Torah is talking about. I might have thought that even an unmarried woman who engages in sexual relations outside the bonds of marriage, that would also be a problem. Ne'markan aviha. So it says the word avia here. Again, the pasuk said liznos, that es avia hi michaleles. So v'ne'mar lahalan avia. But it also says avia in connection with the na'ara ma'orasa, where it says, this is Dvarim Parakaf Bet Pasuk Kav Aleph, where it says, they take the girl onto outside her father's door, uskalua, and they stone her. Anshe Ira, the people of the city, ba'avanim, with stones, v'mesa, and she dies. Kiyasasan nivala b'Yisrael, because she has acted improperly within the Jewish people. Liznos, in order to perform, to do some kind of immoral act. Beisavia, Liznos Beisavia, exactly. She's done some kind of immoral act towards her father's house. Uviarta ramikirbecha, and you should destroy the wickedness from among yourself. So the point is that we see also here aviha. So therefore, malahalan znus imzika sabal. Well, the story over there in Perikav Bet Pasuk Aleph of Dvarim is talking about where a man realizes after the first night of marriage that in fact his wife was not actually a virgin, and then and accuses her of having relations with somebody else while they were while they were in a state of betrothal. And so that's clearly a situation where she's got some kind of connection to a husband. So avkan znus imzikas abal. So to here, it must be that she has some kind of connection with a husband. And so as a result, both of them. So as a result, it can't be that also here you would be talking about somebody who is not married. Oh, Eno Omer Avia El Ozias Kol Hadam. Well, 1 second. Maybe the whole reference to Avia in connection with as Avia he Michaleles, that she profaned her father, is not telling us how her act affected her father, but rather it's telling us that maybe she had relations with her father, and that's why she's being treated so harshly. Well, Keshehu Omer he michaleles heavy kol adam amor. Well, the fact that the words he michaleles, even though the next words are or the previous words are esavia, which seem to be connected to it, the he michaleles is a general statement, and therefore it refers to everyone. So ha mani mikayim aviha. So what is the words, the prior words of avia hi michaleles? Why is avia there? Nemar kan avia v'nemar lahalan avia. Well, the point is that both by the Cohen's daughter and the Na'ara Me'orasa, we have the word avia. Malahalan's nus imzikas abal. Just as in one place it involves illegal relations when somebody is connected to a husband, avkan's nus imzikas abal. So too here it does. Well, well, over there, clearly she was she was only engaged when she had some other kind of relationship, because the point is the husband realized it on the first night of their marriage. So as a result, it happened before they got married. So afkan narahi v'hi. So to here, it would, it applies specifically to one who is betrothed. Now, remember that actually is not true, because at least according to the rabbis, according to Rabbi Shimon, it's true. Right. But according to the rabbis, if she's just betrothed, she gets stoning. So now Ravi nesua bogeres v'hi arusa bogeres v'hi nesua v'afilu hazikina minayin. Well, this brisa, which clearly does not follow the rabbis, how do I ask the question? So we know that it applies to a na'ara who has done kedushin but not nesuin. How do I know that it also applies to a fully married na'ara and to an older girl who is either engaged or married, and to somebody who is even older and may not be able to have children any longer? Talmud Lomar uvas kohen mikol makom. So the point is the Torah uses a general phraseology of bas kohen. All of these women, if their father was a kohen, would be a bas kohen, and so as a result, that's the point. So the brisa continues. Bas Kohen, what do we learn from the wording of Bas Kohen, in addition to what we just said? So, Ainli Elish Nisas LeKohen. I might have thought that this means being married to a Kohen, Nisas LeLevi Yisrael, and only married to a Kohen, because maybe once you married a non-Kohen, because you're not able to have truma any longer, you would no longer be considered a bas kohen. So nisas lelevi Yisrael laovid kochavim lechala lemamzer lunasin minayin. How do I know that when it comes to a marriage with all of these other people, and here I think that ovid kochavim probably means a Jew who worships idols, not a non-Jew, but all of these people. How do I know that they also, that if she's married to them, it also results in the penalty of burning if she were to have an affair? So Talmud Lomar uvas ish kohen aval pi she'ena kohenes, that even though she's no longer able to eat truma like a kohen, but as long as she is the daughter of a man who is a kohen, that tells us that it doesn't make a difference who she's married to, and so as a result, she will get punished with the punishment of burning if she is married, or in this, according to this version of this brisa, or if she's even just betrothed to somebody. It doesn't make a difference what the nature of that person is. As long as there's a marriage, it's going to be problematic. He bisreifa, ve'ein bo ala bisreifa. And in addition, we will learn that she is killed by burning, but the person who has relations with her is not killed by burning. He bisreifa, ve'ein zomameha bisreifa. She is killed with burning, but if there are Edom Zomamin who say that she had relations with a person, then not they, and then those witnesses become Edom Zomamin, because other witnesses say you could not have testified to that because you were with us at that time and that we were not in that place. And so as a result, you couldn't have seen the couple engage in any inappropriate action. And so as a result, we do to those witnesses what they would want to do to the people that they were accusing. Now, I might have thought that that means that because they were going to try to burn her, that she would get burning. But no, instead, what would the man get in that situation? The man that had relations, he would get strangulation, because that's the punishment. If in fact she was fully married, he would get strangulation. And if in fact she was they were just betrothed, then he would get stoning. So what this brisa is telling us, something that we saw yesterday as well, is that the Edom Zomamin get the man's punishment, not the woman's punishment, not the special punishment for the daughter of a Kohen. Rabbi Eliezer says, as we conclude the brisa, es havia bisreifa, with her father she gets burned, as the eschamia biskila, with her father-in-law she gets stoned. Now, I might have thought that this means who she's having relations with, because maybe because the truth is that, at least according to the opinion in this brisa, if she had relations with her father, she would get burned, and if she had relations with her father-in-law, she would get stoned, potentially. But in the end, we're not going to say that, because if it were true for a Bas Kohen, that would also potentially be true for a non-Bas Kohen, for any woman who's married. And so as a result, that can't be the explanation. So we're going to see 4 different explanations later on at the end of the day today. So Amar Mar, Yachal Afilu Chil Shabbos. 1 second. So now we're going to parse through each and every aspect of the brisa that we just learned. And we began the brisa by saying that maybe on Shabbos she would get stoned, and that's meaning maybe on Shabbos she would get burned, and that was the point of this, and that was what it was referring to when we say that esavia, that kisechel, that she did some kind of profaning. So the question that the Gemara asks is Chil Shabbos Baskilahi. I don't understand. The punishment for violating Shabbos is stoning, and stoning, according to the rabbis, is more severe than burning. So why would the Torah ever change from the punishment of stoning to the punishment of burning? So Amar Rava Hamani Rabbi Shimon, the author of this brisa is, or at least the view that's provided in this brisa, is Rabbi Shimon. And Rabbi Shimon says that burning is more severe than stoning. And so the Amar Sreifa Chamura, because he's the one who says burning is more severe. And so as a result, that's why we might have thought that maybe she should get additional punishment for violating Shabbos. Since the rabbis are more strict with Kohanim, that they have extra commandments, Tidon b'sreifa, maybe she should get burned with the sreifa. Kamash Malan, not so. So that's why we have to say Kisechel Liznos, to tell us that in fact it's not talking about Shabbos, but it's only talking about an immoral sexual relation. So Maishnamine Didei, why is she different from him? Why would a man who's the son of a Kohen not get also this punishment? Why would we ever think that a woman would be singled out for harsher treatment for violating Shabbos if she's a daughter of a Kohen? So salta ihu ishtarya le Shabbos legabe avoda. Well, a Kohen working in the Beis Hamikdash is actually allowed to do certain things that are prohibited on Shabbos. So, for example, you're not allowed to kill an animal on Shabbos, but they killed animals to sacrifice them in the Beis Hamikdash. You're not allowed to do, to burn things, to do fire, etc., on Shabbos, and yet they were allowed to deal things, put things on the fire on Shabbos. So all of those things. So maybe because the men in the tribe, in the Kohanic families are able to do these, we won't punish them if they do something wrong on Shabbos with the extra punishment, because maybe they just get used to violating Shabbos. But when it comes to her, Kevin Deloish Darya Shabbos Legabe, because she's not allowed to violate Shabbos, Ema Titum Bisreifa. Maybe we would say that she should get burned. So Kamash Malan, again, the Torah adds Liznos to tell us that this is not, in fact, talking about any kind of profaning, but rather just the profaning associated with sexual relations. Okay, so the next piece of the brisa was Yachal Afilu Panuya. Maybe she should, maybe this punishment of burning should even apply to sexual relations with an unmarried woman. Well, 1 second. Doesn't znos imply, so again, an improper sexual relations, and isn't that usually going to be adultery? No, it doesn't necessarily. Kidder Rabbi Elazar, the Amar Penuya Haba al Penuya Shalo Lishum Yishus Asaznos. That if a couple engages in sexual relations and they don't have an intent to get married, so then that is an improper sexual relations, and it can be called znus, and she would be called a zona, and therefore that can be potentially why we could say that even an unmarried woman would get this punishment. Oh, Aina Omer Avia Ela as Kola Adam. Then the Brisa said that because it says Avia, we learn that, maybe we should say it only refers to her or father relations and not anyone else. Well, second. So the Gemara asks, what is that kind of Havamina? Elamai Nihu. What are you talking about? Shazinsa me'avia, my area bas Kohen, afilu bas Yisrael nami. Well, if in fact she has relations with her father, then it doesn't make a difference whether she's a Kohen or not, because the penalty for incest between a father and daughter is burning. The Amar Rava. Now, the truth is that this prohibition of incest with a father and daughter is not explicitly said in the Torah. It's learned through a Gzeira Shava. It's learned through a Gzeira Shava between the situation where we say that a man is not allowed to have relations with his wife's daughter, who doesn't have to be his daughter, but even his wife's daughter. And it says that you can't have relations with your daughter's daughter. So the common word, hena, in both those contexts, essentially tells us to connect those issues and apply the concept of daughter to the daughter's daughter situation, so that not only would your daughter's daughter be subject to the penalty, but so would your daughter be subject. So would having relations with your daughter. So to Amar Rava, Amar Li Rav Yitzchak bar Avdumi, because Avudimi. So Rav Yitzchak bar Avudimi said to me that Asya Hena, Asya Zima Zima. We can do a double Gzeira Shava. The first Gzeira Shava is the one I just said. Hena in connection with a father and a granddaughter, and Hena between a father and his wife's daughter. And so that also tells us that a daughter also is prohibited. And Zima Zima, the two Zimas, one is in connection with the daughter's daughter, and one is in connection with not marrying a wife and a mother-daughter combination. and the mother-daughter combination, it specifically says that burning is the penalty. And so as a result, now that we've got all these three things tied together, we say not only do you penalize the man who has incest with his daughter, but you also penalize all these people with burning. And so as a result, that's the penalty, whether the person's a Kohen or not. So why would we possibly ask how maybe this pasuk could only be talking about a daughter of a Kohen who has relations with her father? It's true for any situation. No, it's true. I might have thought that if in fact we said we had this avia connection, that maybe it's only for the daughter of a Kohen who has relations with her father who is going to get burned, and we would exclude and we would not say Rava's lesson, and we would not use that double Gzeira Shava. And therefore, Midigali Rachmana Bevas Kohen, Velo Bevas Yisrael, but once, and it would be saying that, and the Torah would be telling us that in fact, we are going to only apply this rule to the daughter of a Kohen and not to the daughter of Yisrael. So that's why we can have this Hava Amina, but then we say, no, the Kamash Malan, that we say, Michaleha, that the words of Michal, of he Michaleles tell us that it doesn't make a difference. Excuse me, doesn't make a difference with whom she had the the extramarital affair. Okay, so next language of the Baraisa was referring to Bas Kohen. Ainli Ela Shanisus LeKohen, Nisus Levi Yisrael Laovde Kochavim Lechala Lunasin Ulamamzer Minayan. How do I know about all these other situations? Then maybe it's only if she remains able to eat truma and therefore marries a Kohen. So we said Talmud Lomer Bas Ish Kohen Afal Pisha Eina Kohenes, that because it says Bas Ish Kohen, that she has to be the daughter of a man who's a Kohen, it doesn't make a difference with whom she is married because she is still the daughter. So Mishum De'inat. So now the Gemara asks a question. If it had just said Bas Kohen, Mishum De'inasva Lahu Lahani La Bas Koheni, her father doesn't change as a result of her marriage. So Visu Midi Kohenes L'Kohen Ksiv, does it say that she needs to continue to be able to eat truma and be subject to the laws of being a Kohen? It does not say that. So Salka Daita Kamina, I might have thought, no, Kisechel is knows that when it says that she engaged in some sort of adulterous affair, Amar Rachmana, that the Torah was telling us, that's only where this relations is causing the first time of her being profaned. But avalha kevan dekam metachla the kaima meikara. But maybe if she had already profaned herself by marrying somebody who she's not allowed to marry, such as somebody who's an idol worshiper, or somebody who is a natin or a mamzer, those are people that she can't marry. The Amar Mar Uvas Kohen ki ish zar, that we say that if a person marries a stranger, then she's not allowed to eat the truma. Kevan shenivala lepasol la pasala. But once she has relations with somebody who's unfit to marry her, so then she's disqualified from eating truma already. And so Levi, so as a result, maybe it would only be if she was able to marry somebody who's a valid, who she's allowed to marry, that this law would apply. Moreover, Levi Yisrael Nami, we could even say that if she were to marry a Levi or Yisrael, she also would not be have the pasuk apply. Why? Because Vishava el Beis Avia Kinureha. We have a pasuk that says that if a woman's husband dies and she has no children, she returns to her father's house and then is able to eat truma again. So what is the implication of that? That she's miklal de ki ise gabe lo achla. The implication is that right now she's not allowed to eat truma and meiser while she's married to a Levi or Yisrael. So Ema lo tzidun b'sreifa. Maybe I would say that since she can't eat truma right now, we would take her out of the category of being a Bas Kohen, and we would treat her like a regular woman, and she wouldn't be subject to this increased penalty for having an affair. So Kamash Malan, that's why the Torah tells us, no, Bas Ish Kohen tells us that specifically it doesn't make a difference who she's married with. It's all that matters is that she's the daughter of a Kohen. Udalok Rebbe Meir. Now, what we just said, by grouping together the all of these categories, all of the categories of a Levi, a Yisrael, an Ovid Kochavim, a Chalal, a Nasin, and a Mamzer, that is not like Rebbe Meir, because Rebbe Meir makes a very big distinction between the nature of who she marries. Titania, because we have a Mishnah. Bas Kohen, and this Mishnah is in Trumos, Perek Zayin, Pasuk Mishnah Bet. Bas Kohen, Shenises Yisrael, if a daughter of a Kohen marries a Jew, a Yisrael, a regular Jew, or a Levi for that matter, v'achla truma, and then she went and ate truma. Now she's not supposed to eat truma. But because she's no longer because she's now married and she's no longer in her father's house, and she married somebody who's a Yisrael. So Mishalemes is a Karen. By the way, what's the rule in general? If I were to go, I'm not a Kohen, if I were to go, God forbid, and accidentally eat truma, so I owe the Kohanim the value of the food that I ate, plus I add to it a 1/5 penalty. Now, that 1/5 penalty, as we know, is calculated based on the fact that after I pay the money, it'll be 1/5, which means it's a 25% penalty. It's a 1/4 penalty because 25% of 100 is 25. And now out of 125, 25 is 1/5. But in any event, the bottom line is va'achla truma. So if I eat it, I have to pay the back and I have to pay the penalty. But according to this first opinion, which we will see is Rebbe Meir, if she eats truma and it was the daughter of a Kohen, but she's not married to a Kohen, Mishalemes is a Karen. She pays the main amount, the principal amount. Ve'ena Mishalemes is a Chomish, but she doesn't pay the penalty. Umisa sab isreifa. And if she were to have adultery, then she is killed through burning, because that is she's still considered the daughter of a Kohen, and so as a result, she gets the penalty associated with a Bas Kohen. However, nisas le'echa min psulin, if she marries somebody who she's not allowed to marry, like a nasin or a mamzer or even a chalal, that's a Kohen who is the product of a Kohen and a divorcee, mishalemes karen v'chomesh. Then she has to pay the principal and the fifth. Umisa sabechenek, and she dies with strangulation, because her marriage, divrei Rebbe Meir, that's Rebbe Meir's opinion. So her marriage is not considered a full-fledged marriage. So as a result, unlike the Brisa where we saw that it doesn't matter who she's married, she's still considered a Bas Kohen, and as long as there's an element of marriage, she's going to get the death penalty of burning. When it comes to Rebbe Meir, no, it matters who she marries. Only if she's married somebody she's allowed to marry will she get the penalty of burning. If she marries somebody she's not allowed to marry, she will get the regular penalty of a Bas Yisrael, which is strangulation. The Chachamim Omrim, Zu v'zu, Mishalamos Karen v'lo chomesh. No, no matter what. Ooh, I think I got that wrong. I said that she does pay the fifth. No, she doesn't pay the fifth. No matter what she does, she pays the principal, and she doesn't pay the fifth because she is still the daughter of a Kohen. Umisa sabis reifa, and her death penalty is by burning. Meaning, it doesn't matter who she's married. So we see that the brisa that we just quoted is like the rabbis, is like the Chachamim, and not like Rebbe Meir. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Rabbi Eliezer says, now we have this very confusing last statement in our brisa, but he said, Esavia besreipa ve'eschamia beskila, that with her father by burning, with her father-in-law by stoning. Now, my esavia ve'eschamia, what does that mean? Ilema esavia me'avia ve'eschamia me'chamia, if it means to actually have relations with that person. My area bas Kohen, what does it make a difference whether it's a daughter of a Kohen? Afil bas Yisrael nami. The law is that if you have relations with your daughter, it's burning. And if you have relations with your daughter-in-law, it's stoning. So we're going to give 4 efforts to answer this question. So effort number 1, Ella esavia bereshus avia. The meaning of being in with her father, it means in the home of her father, which means, now we're talking about somebody who's at least somewhat married, so that means betrothal, because you're considered still in your father's home if you are betrothed, meaning if you've only gone through kedushin. Because often they would do kedushin on day 1, and they would do nesuin a year later. So chamia b'reshus chamia, and when it says with her father-in-law, it means in the domain of her father-in-law, meaning that she is now fully married. But that's a problem, because we said in that brisa that we quoted that when she's in her father's house, it's burning, meaning that when she's only betrothed, she would get burning. But and she's in the father-in-law's house, then she's fully married, it would be stoning. But that's not the law. The law is the exact opposite. The law is that when she's only betrothed, she gets stoning. But when she's fully married, she gets burning, according to the rabbis. So we're now going to show there are 3 different opinions, 2 that we've seen, 1 that we will see, 3 different opinions on when we apply the Bas Kohen rules in our pasuk, and none of them fit with what we just said, with what Rabbi Eliezer said, if this interpretation is right. So come on, Ikarabanan, is it like the rabbis? Baha Amre, Nesua Yatzas L'Sreifa. It's only when they're fully married that they go out to burning. Below Arusa, not a betrothed. And so as a result, that doesn't fit at all with Rabbi Eliezer's statement, because he's got the exact opposite. And Ika Rabbi Shimon, and if you want to try to say it's Rabbi Shimon, that's not true. Ha'amar achas arusa v'achas nesua b'sreifa. He says both, whether she's betrothed or fully married. Again, that wasn't consistent with Rabbi Eliezer. The Ika Rabbi Yishmael, and now you should know that there is another opinion of Rabbi Yishmael, and we are going to see that opinion very shortly. We'll see that on the Amud Bet. And if you want to say it's Rabbi Yishmael, this also doesn't make sense. Ha'amar arusa yatzas l'sreifa, because he says that the betrothed goes out for sreifa, and nesua below nesua, and whereas but not when you're fully married. So eschamia cheneku, and then therefore it would be strangulation. So he says that it's only an arusa that gets burning, and not a fully married, and the fully married gets strangulation, not and not anything else. So that doesn't work at all. So Sholach Ravin Mishmei de Rabbi Yossi, the Rabbi Chanina, Kachi Hatzah Shel Mishnah. Now, here's how you can leave the wording. We wanted to leave the wording the same and have it say, with her in her father's house, or with her father, it is burning. With her father-in-law, it's stoning. Here's how you can read it and have that without changing the words around. La'olam karabanan. Really, it's like the rabbis. V'haki kamar kol shehu lamata memisa aviyah. Anytime the version of execution for a daughter of a Kohen would be less than the daughter than you would have for incest with her father. Umay nihu nesua bas Yisrael. That's a case where a fully married daughter of Yisrael has relations. De'ilah nesua bas Yisrael b'chenek, because that person is killed with strangulation. So hacha, when it comes to the daughter of a Kohen, b'misas aviyah b'sreifa, we're going to punish her with the punishment that we would give if she had incest with her father. So kol shehi lamala b'misas aviyah, and any time it would be more severe than the punishment that we would give having incest with her father, meaning umay nihu. And what's the situation of that? Arusa bas Yisrael. That's the situation where you have a betrothed daughter of Israel, meaning that where there's only betrothal, and therefore we would give her skila. Deila arusa bas Yisrael ba'alma b'skila, because we give a betrothed woman skila. Haka b'misas chamia speskila. So too, we're going to give her the type of death that if she would commit incest with her father-in-law, which is stoning. So maskiv la Rabbi Yirmiyah midi lamalo lamata katani. 1 second. You have read so much into those few words of Rabbi Eliezer that it can't possibly be that that's what he meant, because he didn't reference to anything being more than or less than. Ella Amr, so Rabbi Yirmi gives his own interpretation, and we have now a second interpretation as we turn to Nun Aleph Amud Bet, and he says the following. Rabbi Yirmiyah says, "La'olam ka Rabbi Yishmael." Really, this the statement of Rabbi Eliezer is like Rabbi Yishmael. V'hagikamer, and this is what he's saying: Es havia b'rshus havia b'sreifa. When, if she is in the possession, meaning in the rishus, in the domain of her father, meaning that she's only betrothed, well, then she gets burning. V'es chamia, but if she has actual relations, mechamia, meaning she has relations with her father-in-law, biskila, then she gets stoning. The kol adam bechenek, but any other person, if she has relations with any other person and she's fully married, well, then she would get strangulation. So that is the interpretation that Rabbi Yirmiyah offers of our brisa. But the problem is, Amarava, Maishna, O idi v'idi mamish, O idi v'idi rishus. But you're switching things around. In the first part of the Mishnah, it was the first part of Rabbi Eliezer's statement in the Brisa, it was talking about being in the domain. And in the second part, it's talking about having relations, and yet he used the exact same words. You can't use the exact same words in two phrases, one right after the other, and switch the meaning. So as a result, Ella Amarava la'olam ka Rabbi Shimon. Really, let's say it's like Rabbi Shimon. The Kasava Rabbi Eliezer Nesua Ba'arusa and Karusa. And we're talking about, and Rabbi Eliezer thinks that one who is fully married is like an Arusa. So as a result, my Arusa, Chad Darga, Maskinan La, Miskila Lasrefa. So when it comes to somebody who's betrothed, so Rabbi Eliezer says we go up one level from stoning to burning, because a regular woman in a Jewish woman gets stoning if she's only betrothed. And so as a result, that penalty, when it's a Bas Kohen, will go up from stoning to burning, because this follows, again, not only, this follows Rabbi Shimon's approach. And again, Rabbi Shimon says that burning is more severe than stoning, as we saw in the opening Mishnah of our Perek. So, Af Nesua, Chadarga Maskinan La Mechanek Laskila. So too, we're going to move her up one level when it comes to a fully married, from strangulation to stoning. But Maskif La Rabbi Chanina asked the question, Ha'idi v'idi Rabbi Shimon b'sreifa kamer. But you can't say that that's Rabbi Shimon's view. Rabbi Shimon says that whether she's betrothed, whether she's only an Arusa, or she's done Nisuin as well, she's going to get burning. So that also, Rabbi, your view doesn't work. Ella Amaravina la'olam karabanan. Really, we could say it's like the rabbis. And we could just reverse everything. And you know what? We reverse everything because we could say with her, when she's in her father's domain, it's stoning, and when she's in her father-in-law's domain, it's burning. And why did we use this language in the first place? We use this language because the Baraisa had earlier referenced the Gzeira Shava of Avia, and so as a result, it used that same kind of language. Rabbi Eliezer used that same kind of language. So now the Gemara says something kind of shocking, because effectively only the fourth answer survives without challenge, and yet Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravua, Amar Rav, Halacha kedeshalach Ravin mishmei de Rabbi Yossi but Rabbi Chanina. That was our first answer. The halacha is like Ravin, who said in the name of the Rabbi Yossi, in the name of the son of Rabbi Chanina. And so, Amar Rabbi Yosef, Hilchas. Now, this is kind of also confusing because nobody was saying that these explanations of Rabbi Eliezer had any halachic ramification whatsoever. And so Rabbi Yosef asks, Amar Rabbi Yosef, Hilchas ala Mashiach, and of course, we aren't giving the death penalty right now. And so as a result, at the time of the Gemara, because there is no more Sanhedrin. So Rabbi Yosef says, are you giving us a halachic ruling for the time of the Mashiach? So right now we assume that it means that because Rashi, according to Rashi, that you're telling us a halacha that will once again apply when the Sanhedrin is back in force, and we're going to have a Mashiach, and therefore we'll be able to impose the death penalty again. Why are you bothering with that? Amar le Abaye. Abaye says back something that makes a lot of sense. Kachim lo lisni hilchas ala Mashiach. 1 second. When it comes to the slaughtering that we would do in the Beis Hamikdash, don't we have in the Gemara and in the Mishnah all the laws that are associated with it in order to tell us what the halacha will be? Ela drosh v'kabel schar. Of course we do. And so the point is, and we do so because we study and receive reward. Hachinamik drosh v'kabel schar. Here too, let's learn what the halacha will be, and we'll receive reward for that. No. So Rabbi Yosef clarifies Hachikamer. No, this is what I meant. Hilchas Olamali. What do you mean? Why are we giving a halachic ruling? Sugya dishmaita halacha ka'amar. We haven't actually talked about halacha in this discussion. This discussion, as Rashi says in Rashi, basically middle of the narrow lines in Rashi. Hakakamina halacha lamali sugya deshmaisa halacha kamar. Bidmia, this is a question. Mi shayach lameimer halacha b'ki hai machlokes she'ein bein Ravin l'Ravina lo chiyav v'lo pater. There's no difference between the obligations of the different opinions, whether it's Ravin or Ravina. It doesn't make a difference from a practical perspective. They're just explaining lo chiluk misa, and there's no difference in the death penalty. The tarvayu mefarshe nesua bisreifa arusa biskila, because both of them say that we're talking about a nesua, when a married woman would get sreifa if she's a bas kohen, and an arusa if she's only betrothed biskila, she gets skila. Ubetikun lashon habraisa pligi pligi. And they're only arguing about how you fix the language, how you understand Rabbi Eliezer's statement. Mar mitaken lishna de lo itzrich la'apucha. One of them says, you know what, I can fix the language without having to flip anything. Umar mapikla mishum duchka delishna. And the other one flips the language and says that you got to switch the order around and switch which one is burning and which one is stoning, because it doesn't make any sense. Umay halacha ika lameimar besugya deshmaisa acharesha ein anu lamidim mimena klum. We're not learning any kind of application here. Kishayavu hamashiach v'yichya hamesim, and when Mashiach comes and the dead are revived, nishal es Rabbi Eliezer. We can ask Rabbi Eliezer directly. Be'ezel lashon amra. What he actually meant when he said that. So that's the question that Rav Yosef is asking. And so, and that question is not answered. And so as a result, it's an interesting thing that we don't have a good answer to that question. Okay. So my Rabbi Yishmael, we referenced Rabbi Yishmael as a third opinion in this brisa. Where is that Rabbi Yishmael statement? And that's what we're going to learn now. We're going to learn just the language of the brisa, and then when we're done with the brisa, that will be our conclusion for today. So my Rabbi Yishmael, Titania uvas ish kohen kisech eliznos, that when you have the daughter of a kohen who goes out and has some kind of immoral relations, binara vehi arusa hakasav medaber. Unlike everybody else, well, I guess unlike at least the rabbis, and on some level, Rabbi Shimon as well, Rabbi Yishmael says it only applies to a betrothed na'ara. Ata omer b'na'ara v'hi arusa, o eino ela afilu nesua. Maybe it should also apply to somebody who's fully married. Talmud lomar, ish asher yinaf, as Eishes Reyehu, most yumas hano'ev v'hano efes, that we have a law for adultery when they're fully married. Hakol hayu bichlal hano'ev v'hano efes. Everybody's included in that prohibition. So what does the Torah do? The Torah is saying, Hotzi akasu bas Yisrael beskila. The Torah is telling us that when it comes to a Na'ara Hama'orasa, then, and she's a Bas Yisrael, so then she gets stoning. But if Ubas Kohen Bisreifa, but when she's a daughter of a Kohen, she gets burning. Makasha Hotzia Kasav as a Bas Yisrael, Leskila Arusa Velonisua. So just as when we say about a daughter of Yisrael that there's a special rule if she's only betrothed and she gets stoning, and it doesn't apply if she's fully married. So too, when we make a special rule for a Bas Kohen, we say that that special rule only applies when she's betrothed and not when she's fully married. Now, this is interesting because, again, the rabbis say the exact opposite. Right. The rabbis say that the Bas Kohen gets the burning penalty only if she's fully married, and she gets the stoning penalty just like every other Bas Yisrael if she is only betrothed. So, and now the Brisa continues, Zomameh uvo Allah bichlal basisim lo kasher zamam, and the Edim Zomamin and the person who has relationships with her are all in the category of do to them as they would prepare to do to somebody else, meaning the punishment for Edom Zomin. So the Gemara asks, as a quick aside, Bo'ala, my kasher zamamika. What are you talking about? Applying to the person who had relations with her that he gets the penalty that he tried to do to somebody else? That doesn't make any sense. Elazomemes. No. What it means to say is that Edim Zomamin get the same punishment as the man with whom she cohabits, meaning that while she is going to get Sreifa, he is going to get strangulation. Mishum shenemar v'asisem lo kasher zamam lasos lachiv. Right, you do to him as he conspired to do to his brother. V'lo la'achoso, and so it's this case. It's what the Edom Zomim conspired to do when there's a man and a woman, and the woman's getting a different punishment. We're going to give the Edom Zomim the man's punishment. Divrei Rabbi Yishmael. That's what Rabbi Yishmael says. Rabbi Akiva Omer. Rabbi Akiva says no. He says just like we saw Rabbi Shimon say, Achas Arusa v'Achas Nesua Yasas L'Sefer. Doesn't make a difference whether it's an Arusa or a Nesua, whether she's fully married or just betrothed, she's going to go out for burning. Yachal Afil Panuya, maybe you might have thought that even an unmarried woman, Nemar Kanavia, B'Nemar Lahalanavia. Well, no, it says father here in connection with the Kohen's daughter, and it says father in connection with the Na'ara Ma'orasa, Malahalan's nos im zikas habal, just as the Na'ara Ma'orasa involves somebody who has some connection with her husband, so therefore she's married on some level, whether it's betrothed or married, it doesn't matter. Avkan's nos im zikas habal. So too here, there has to be some kind of relationship with the husband, and therefore a woman who's unmarried is not going to get this punishment. Amar lo Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel says back to Rabbi Akiva, I don't think you're right. Malahalana Rabbi Arusa. Well, over there, it's only a betrothed Na'ara. She did not have relations once she was married. She had relations while she was betrothed. Afkan Na'ara Arusa. So maybe we should say also here, just as I said a few moments ago, Rabbi Yishmael says, it's only should apply to a Na'ara who is only betrothed, the daughter of a Kohen who's only betrothed. So Amar lo Rabbi Akiva, Yishmael Achi, listen, my brother Yishmael, Bas Uvas Ani Doresh. The pasuk that is the key pasuk in all of this discussion of the Bas Kohen does not say Bas Ish Kohen. It begins Uvas Ish Kohen. And Rabbi Akiva believes that a letter Vav that's added and not necessary, we have to do something with it. And as a result, what are we going to add? We're going to add the married woman. So yes, in the Na'ara Morasa, it's only talking about a betrothed Na'ara. and there is a Gzeira Shava between the two. So certainly a betrothed Na'ara, who's the daughter of a Kohen, will get burning. But I also say that because the letter Vav is there, uvas, it adds to that we are also going to apply this punishment to a fully married woman who's a Bas Kohen. Amar lo. So Rabbi Shmuel says back, dorish bas uvas notzi zo l'sreifa. So in second, so you're gonna say that we're gonna, once you are saying that something gets added, maybe we should also add imashma lahavi es hanesua, hevi es hapanuya. Once you're gonna say we're gonna add the married woman, also add the unmarried woman. And if you're going to use our Gzeira Shava between Na'ara El Rasa and the Bas Kohen to say that we're going to exclude an unmarried woman, Hotzi es hanesua, we should exclude a fully married woman. Now that's the end of our brisa, and so as a result, our brisa. Oh, I apologize for not scrolling. Our brisa effectively ends with Rabbi Yishmael making a statement and Rabbi Akiva not responding. So the Gemara's next step is to say, what would Rabbi Akiva say? And so for that, you'll have to stay tuned for tomorrow's daf. So I'm gonna stop the recording and then I want to have a question.